Hi class, let's start the chapter. I'm going to share a screen with you. So in this chapter, we will be talking about how information technology as a service. We look at it, information technology as a service. Now, what we are planning to understand in this chapter, we're planning to see how has information technology evolved over the last 15 years? How do my technical skills align with these technology evolutions? And what is IT service management? And what do people, process, and technology mean for me and for you? What is required to transition technology from a project to a production environment? So the first, you remember in the old days, 15 years ago, we used to, whenever we get an email, we're excited about it, but we get lots of letters. Today, we were getting a lot of emails, and whenever we get a letter, we get excited about it. So it seems this time is changing. Now, other thing that I wanted to show you very quickly, this is an IBM bragging about 1 GB size of their storage.
I'd like to show you some of the 3330 disk storages that we're building here. Each module, like this one, has 2 drawers. Of course, when the unit's complete, the drawers will open automatically with the push of a button. But for now, I'll pull the drawer out manually. This single pack I'm holding with a dozen disks can store 100 million characters. We are now in another testing area of the plant. What you're seeing is the 3330's control unit. This is the box that takes orders from the central processing unit, relays them to the reading and recording heads, and transfers data to the computer. We believe the 3330 sets a new standard for information storage and retrieval, and we think the user who is moving toward large database applications in the 70s is going to like what this machine can do. He will be able to tap into as many as 800 million characters.
That was in the 70s. He's talking about 1 GB storage. Now, in my hand right now, I have something like a 16 GB storage, and probably there is 32 and more in the market. So 1 GB is nothing. But why did we need that much storage? We'll explain that. And
I'd like to.
And before we do that, I just want to show you how is today is the storage changed. And we're going to show you a good thing that the world's largest data center, it's in Montreal. Whenever I'm passing by in the old days, last year, I used to pass by it. I thought it's not a data center, but then I found out it's a data center when we purchased the servers there. Now, just I'll show you how the things have been evolved from the 70s to this day. Can you hold on a second. I'm just going to share another site now. Data center in Europe. So you notice that the world largest data center made of 360,000 servers, and it's located in just before you go to the Montreal passing by. And so very amazing. But what these data centers are carrying data plus carrying applications. So it's a wave from 70s to today is a huge change in the amount of the data and in the amount of applications and the size of applications. I mean, something like that. It's a necessary in the market. So let's continue sharing the situation. So I recommend you to see the second half is the future of working in the office, how it looks like by clicking on the link below. Now, so the situation is basically technology are transforming the foundation of the global business, even the local business and the organizations also. And how it does that, because of issues like these. We recently, last 2, 3 years, we heard of something like a cloud and mobile computing. We heard of the big data management, big data engineering, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Also, we are pretty much getting advanced in sensors and intelligent manufacturing, advanced robotic and drones. And you know, most of the wars is happening in Ukraine right now, utilizing drones, a clean energy technology, and guess what? More digitization, more B2B digitization, B2C, G2C, which is a government to citizen, business to consumers. It's a B2C. I mean, all these resulted some other more terminologies coming in the market, which is you're going to be seeing it today or in the near futures. Issues like fintech companies is like a Coho, I don't know, meaning there is a lots of fintech company, which is a financial technology. They are not a bank, but they operate like a banks. The stack providers like Ubers and Salesforce, plus now further stack providers for banks and banking. So you don't have to be a bank to be a banker. And then we got involved in the collaboration suites as we do now. So there is Zoom, there is other collaboration suite, there is D2L, there is a Blackboard, all kind of collaboration suite that, and more and more. So the question comes in, how do my technical skills align with the technology evolution? Now, keep in mind, what we presented is kind of a front end. There is a back end also. There is an evolution that's happening. But I wanted to bring some example that you deal with it on a daily, or you heard of it on a daily basis. So I believe is in the only constant thing is change. And that's a very ironic. So the change is the only constant thing in life. And there is some sectors which is changing very quickly. And the fastest growth or change in the information technology happening. I always say that if you leave the IT for a month, it will leave you for 6 months. So that does not mean you will be just given up on it, because you need to keep on updating yourself with the environment. But you don't need to updating yourself with all these fields that in the IT. You need to kind of specialize in a certain field. For example, let's speak before we start talking about the how you're going to be specialized and what's your choice. Let's talk about what is the IT service management. And In the IT service management, what we see here, we see kind of a, a diagram, which is that consists of issues that in the IT service management or ITSM, and they can be a company providing these kind of a third party providing these kind of like a service catalog. What kind of service you're looking for? As is like, are you looking for cloud? What kind of a cloud you're looking for? Incident management. So if something goes wrong, how they approach it and solve it for you, how quickly, is it how they mitigate the risks? There is a backup recoveries and all these things. Change management, if there is a growth for you, it's happening. A service request, service portfolio management, a project management, and service assets management. Then you have what you call assets management, and then you have the knowledge management. And all these are sugar-coated or under one umbrella of service management itself and report dashboard where you can see it and continuous service improvement. Now, so the other issue that we want to talk about it is what do people, process, and technology mean for us? And it's basically, it is about people, information, and then technology. Never go with the technology, information, people. Make sure people, information, technology, and the synergy of that is how people can use the information-based technology tool to achieve a competitive advantage. Do this in a cheaper way and a faster way, increase the revenue, and do have innovate new processes or so in general, what's an information for me? For information, I can say is upward information, information that's been collected from all the company and it's going up toward the executives where they make a decision, and that's what you call, there is certain application which is help them to make these decisions. It's called ESS or executive support system, support solution. And there is information which is a downward, which is you build an application, executive or HR or management, build certain activity to give a direction for a middle or a lower level management or front end, which is that decision support system or application or solution. And then you have something called horizontal, which is between functional business unit, like an ERP and core solution. And then you have the outward, definitely with others, which is could be your supplier or your customer, and they all could be a CRM or warehouse management system. Now, what is required to transition technology from project to a product environment? To do that, first we need to take a one step and caution step backward. And we noticed that most of implementation, especially in the field of RP, 60% of them run to a problem. At 20% or more, 30%, they do have, would not choose the same application. And there is a 20% they have would fail, clearly failing. So we're not talking about percentage failing, is it clearly failing? But if you look at the, including the percentage failing, that could be a way higher than that. So why causing these problems? Why we are failing in some application 20%? And because we have a tendency of mixing different knowledge. So for example, in the math, when we use 1 + 1 equal with the 2 + 1, which is 3. And at the same time, we say 1 kilometer plus 1 kilometer equal with 3 kilometers. And if I tell you how come, you say, I'm using the law of math. And if I tell you 1 kg plus 1 kg, 2 kg equal with 3 kg, or 2 kgs, so 1 kg, you say, yeah, it's the same thing. Because I say, how come? You say, well, I'm using the math. That's not applicable always in IT, and that's causing the fails. A good consultant is aware of that. And now in information technology, we do not have such thing. In information technology, we have what you call 1 plus 2 is not equal with the 2 plus 1. And that I'll explain to you later on what do we mean here? And what we mean here, before we start explaining that, we need to have a one basic as an IT person or as a IT consultant, is we can bring this idea of Warren Buffett, which is price is what we pay. A return is a value, is what we get. So a Ferrari car would worth not much for me if I'm in downtown of Winnipeg, because I cannot speed up, I cannot drive it very well, and all I'm going to do is taking selfie with it. But so the value for a Ferrari would not be equal, very limited compared to the price that I'm paying for it. So the situation when it comes to IT, this is what we are looking for. The first thing, as an IT person, you need to do a research. And then after the research, you do an evaluation and then select. That's easy said, then it's done. Now, but if we break it up for you, in the research, what you want to do is really do a requirement identification, do IT architecture overview and planning, know the list of enterprise software vendors or the software solution that you're looking for, request for an RFI, and decision model criteria setup. You have to have these. If you don't do these first, you're probably going to run in a problem or failing. Then you do an RFI response analysis. Do a short list for these companies. Do an on-site demonstration, evaluation and scoring, market data reviews and reference check, and then publish an RFP. Once you get your RFP back from these companies, you do an analysis, then you build your contract, and the enterprise software and implementation partner then selected, which is that where you drive the first thing, a project plan from this thing. If you don't do it this way, you are doomed to be in trouble or failing one of these chances. So what I suggest you do in the beginning, you need to build some kind of a sample project plan, a plan for project plan. So a plan before a plan. And here what you do the first month, what you do is a research, first 2 months, then evaluation, then selection, and share these information with the stakeholders. Now the stakeholders, you need, while you're sharing these information, you need to avoid a common mistakes that an IT or a consultant fall in it, is that he's not clearly communicating the purpose for this thing. Secondly, knowing what really is needed. The third thing, recognizing the uniqueness of the business. You are different business. You're not like next college. Your hospital is not like the next hospital. You are unique, and you recognize that too. And choosing the most qualified vendor, you have to look around beside giving the implementation attention it needs, and invest in a solution for the long term. So what's the challenges while you are selecting and implementing? The most biggest challenges is the technology challenges that always you hear from the marketing rhetoric versus really what's the fact. And there is a delivery versus a promises. If you want to guarantee everything is going to deliver, you have to put it in the paper. And the hardware software compatibility, I can tell you many stories later on where is the problem in the implementation failure. The second thing is your internal challenge. Your company do not have extra time to pay attention to it. And this is a limited resources, a lack of evaluation and selection. You need to find them, there is a consensus and find the time to deliver that. And the last, when you have a project, when you come up with an unstructured plan, unclear scope, incomplete requirement, and difficult measuring decision factors, these are different challenges that you live. But the biggest important, the major important one is really getting the consequences. Build the consensus of the your team and stakeholders and the company that they want to upgrade or they want to, put it this way, replace the product. Now, when you say, how do I do evaluate and how and I can create criteria, you might use a different international bodies to do that. For example, Gartner does evaluations differently, and he puts a 20%, and through the survey, he came up with this conclusion, asked the management and said, how much you put a weight on a vision of the company, your partner says 20%. What about the technology? He puts a weight of 15, and service and support 15. Ability to execute is at 25. And this is how he looks, 10% only the cost. This is how you need to evaluate if you're using the Gartner evaluation system on your suppliers. Now, the other way of doing it is really what Technology Evaluation Center, there is a lot, but I'm bringing just two examples, which is located in Montreal. And what do they do is basically they separate subjective from objective. And what they do is really, they do first is functionalities and technology, then they look after marketing and RFP and the less subjective part. So you want to make sure you start with clear objective, which is technology and functionality. Then you build the rest. If you do it differently, you're also doomed to have problems. So in a project plan, when you do a project plan, what do you have? You have first a definition, and you look for an output. First of all, overall, a project plan has to be simplified, implementation, minimum risk, a proven process, and flexible approach. But what you're seeking as a project manager, you're looking at the output, which is the first phase is what you call a definition. And in the definition is the fact that you should be planning to come with the output like a scoping document, gaps, and project plan. And then you have what you call a pre-implementation, and I would not go for the details of that. It's kind of you can configuration documents, you look at acceptance test cases or user acceptance case, which is UAT preparation, and then you look at the final type, which is plan for implementation phase. Then you move on. Once you collected these output, you move on to implementation phase, which is about implementation gap, user training, and execute UAT, which is user acceptance test. Once you implementing, that's when you're going to go live after that operation, moving from implementing to going live and operating. Here's where you go live for a plan of post also. And this is what you do, what you call data migration if it's required, and confirm the contingency plan, and then you go live. And then what you have, you don't leave it like this, you get the sign out during the post implementation and close the project, but you also look at a support and audit. So the project plan should be simplified implementation, minimum risk, proven process, and flexible approach. So in the end, we wanted to know how has the technology evolved over the last 5 years, and we explained with all these data how do my technical skill is aligned with this. Is the fact we said that you need to keep updating yourself, but you saw that so many wide varieties of selection of products and services, you need to focus on one or two. And for example, if you focus on HRMS, or you focus on a certain product too, Oracle, SAP, also, we have explained to you what is an IT service management or ITSM, and how these best can be done when do people, process, and technology work together, and why we do that, and what is required to transition technology from project to production environment. We took a one step backward, and we make sure everything is going fine. Then we do the the project, and then we go alive to minimize the risk of failing and mitigate the risk. Any question or comments? Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.